Some years ago, I had someone on named Tammy Stewart. Her story encouraged many of you. Wait till you hear the rest of the story. There was something upstream that Tammy, and she talked about mostly her family's journey and different, but she didn't finish her story because her story wasn't finished until now. Well, our stories are never finished, but there was something upstream that kept Tammy from healing completely and getting her life back completely. This one's going to shock you. And many of you watching this either have this yourself or know somebody that has this. Very common. So again, you're going to want to share this show, but wait to hear the rest of the story.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cellular Healing TV. I'm Ashley Smith, and today we welcome Tammy Stewart, who is one of Dr. Pompa's very first Platinum Elite trained practitioners, specializing in teaching clients cellular detox and cellular healing so they are equipped to stay forever young. Tammy is here to discuss the first R of detox, which is removing the source of toxicity. And she's here to talk about how she applied this principle to her own preparation and recovery from a recent surgical procedure. I'm so excited to hear all about this. So let's get started and welcome the lovely Tammy Stewart and, of course, Dr. Pompa to the show. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here.
Oh, this is the second time that Tammy has been on Cellular Healing TV. We're going to provide the first time because she told the part of her story that involved her whole family, literally. I mean, all of her kids, they have a story. So
yeah, they all have, so many stories.
Yeah, right. I mean, from Lyme to mold to metals.
Right. And more.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, that's the exciting part about this show is that, I obviously hammer the fact that if you don't get upstream, you're not going to get your life back. I don't care what you do, take what diet you do, nothing. You are the example of that, as well as myself. But I think because your family was affected by molds, metals, and what you're going to hear today too, not molds, metals, and Lyme, but and hidden infections. Y'all had cavitation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And SIBO and staph and oh my goodness, you name it.
But today's story, I think, is going to shock people because we were talking about it on our doctor coaching call the other day, and I said, Tammy, because someone said, how are you doing post this surgery, which we're going to get to. Yeah. And I said, Tammy, remember when we did that experiment at Systemic Seminar where we tested our microbiome on our skin. So we all swabbed different things.
Mine was my nose.
Yeah, okay. Nose or skin, right? They gave us the choice. And we grew them in these little Petri dishes, right? And yours had staph.
I remember, I clearly remember.
Massive.
I know exactly where I was. And you walked down the hall towards me and said, Tammy, oh my goodness, you should see your Petri dish. You have this enormous staph. And then Dr. Morris, same thing. I remember.
Yeah, typical me. I can be like oddly insensitive, right? Because I'm a very sensitive person.
That's okay.
I can be oddly insensitive, my wife says, because my wife's like insensitive, right? It's like, I'm like always going, oh my God, It's like, but I'm oddly insensitive because I was so excited. About the fact, like, oh my gosh, like, what's causing it, right? It's like,
we found it. Look what we found. Oh my goodness, we're so excited.
Because you have to understand, Tammy, I mean, you straightened all these things out in your life, right? You went through the mold, and I'll let you add to a little bit of the story, but we went through this, but yet there was still that something that you aren't well. And, so this finding was amazing finding, but that was how many years ago? How many years ago did we see that major growth of staph?
7, maybe.
Okay. So there's been this interim of, I'm Dr. Pompa, I get the boxers. I'm still not, blah, blah, blah. I'm still dealing with, there must be something upstream still, Tammy. There must be something else. And we didn't know, but you're going to hear that story today. Yeah. So, all right, let's reverse. We're going to put the episode. You don't have to tell your kids' episode. You don't have to tell your kids' episode.
I don't have to tell the whole story again. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. You don't have to do that. We'll get more into yours. We'll focus on your story. But you can kind of talk a little bit about that and then kind of, how we got here today.
Got it. So, and I realized that when I was making notes, preparing for today, that we've talked so much, shared so many stories about my kids, and I've never told my story. my
That's
personal
cool.
journey.
Yeah.
So what happened in the beginning, and I'm not going to go into all this, but we found mold in our house. Our kids were sick. And so that's where my journey started.
Yeah.
That's when I became a practitioner, because there was no one here to help us.
Man.
My kids were sick. All of them had different symptoms. And it really anchored back into my why. My grandmother had Alzheimer's. She was in the nursing home for about 10 years, and my daddy was by himself taking care of her remotely she was about an hour and a half away. So that all my life I have been focused on health. My health is my greatest asset. That is my commitment 100%, because I want to be the grandmother who is there for my grandkids. So my kids got sick. We had mold. I had 8 mercury fillings. There was no one here to teach us how to detoxify those things. So I had to become a practitioner.
Yeah. And I guess that's how you found me, right? I mean, that was how many years ago. We've been together a long time. You
12
became my
years.
patient. Like most superstar moms, right? You started searching for you and your family. Yeah. And you became a practitioner to do that. But how did you end up finding me? Because you were my client and patient first.
Right. Exactly. So our oldest son was sick, and our chiropractor had been attending conferences with you. And he said, honestly, in self-defense, because I was screaming at it, I had his face in my hand like this. You have to tell me what's wrong. Why is this happening? Because we had been getting chiropractic adjustments every week for 3 years. And that's supposed to make us healthy, and undoubtedly saved us from so many things. But he said, there's a toxicity problem somewhere. We did the VCS test. Our son failed it. We found mold in our house. And that's how I got in touch with you.
Yeah. And then, gosh, I guess that kind of brings up your story. So tell us, where did it start? What were your symptoms? And then where did it lead you?
So we started out with mold, and then, I had 8 amalgam fillings. At that time, my husband was unemployed. This was, 12 years ago with the recession, the mortgage industry crash. He had been working for a mortgage company. And I learned I've got this mercury in my mouth, and I have to get this out, this poison. R number 1, remove the source.
Yeah.
And long story short, we cashed in some 401k programs because I did not want to have money in retirement. I wanted to have my health, because when I'm healthy, I can keep working and I can earn money and be productive instead of retiring and having money. So
that's me.
Yeah, I cashed in that 401k. I didn't care how much it cost. I got the mercury out of my mouth. I became a practitioner. We started doing true cellular detox. My kids got better. And I got better in a lot of ways, but then we found the staff that you and I already talked about. And then the thing that happened next was, so my daughter she was sick all the time. She would get the excessive absence letter from school every year, constantly sick. And she was better and better and better. And then she started getting worse. So you and I talked, okay, always R number 1. And we tested her for Lyme because that's the only thing left. And we found all 5 of us, all of us had Lyme. So we worked on Lyme, and we recovered from that. And then we discovered cavitations. So all 6 of us, because by then, the family had grown, went to the dentist, had all of our cavitations repaired.
And just so people, because we have new viewers, that means that where teeth were removed, like a wisdom tooth, right? It could be other teeth. It heals over, and you typically have no pain, but many years later, you have an infection that is hidden in the jaw without symptoms.
Right.
And you did a cone beam, I'm sure, is a 3D X-ray to identify that, or maybe there was another way, because back then.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We didn't have cone.
We did 1 cone beam on Tara, of course, and they found 1 cavitation, and we went to a very, very good dentist in Texas, one of the best. knew how to read the x-ray. And we didn't pay for cone beam for all of us. I just took everybody to the dentist, and we said, open up every single one, all 6 of us, all 4 wisdom teeth sockets, and all of us had cavitations.
Yeah. And just so people know, these things drive sickness at every level. Autoimmune, they lead to cancer, they lead to a lot of problems, unexplainable problems and symptoms, etc. And it's 80-some% chance you have one if you had a wisdom tooth removed. So,
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. So we all got the cavitations removed, and that was I don't even remember when, that's a long time ago. And we know so much more now than we did then. So I got better, but then, so this is just a short little piece of the story. I am so extreme, you know this. I do everything you say, and I don't do a little bit of it. I do it to the nth degree. I do all of it. And so I had been on the cellular healing diet, high fat, low carb, for about 10 years. And we were learning diet variation, but that was hard for me to let go and actually do that. And over the course of 2 years, I gained about 15 pounds. So I finally, beating my head against the wall, okay, I can do this diet variation thing. I started doing diet variation fasting and feasting, lost 15 pounds. So see, all along the road, there were little pieces of progress, but still something going on. My glucose, no matter what I was doing, even when I was in ketosis, glucose around 90. I had SIBO, so small intestine bacteria overgrowth. My symptom was bloating. I would wake up in the morning, nice thin, and by the end of the day, looked pregnant. And so all those things, so many things just weren't right. And it was weird. It was all on the right side of the body. So you and I said, let's get another cone beam. So I did. And we found something on the cone beam. Went back to the dentist. And they removed it. It wasn't a cavitation. It was, I don't know what. It was, I could feel them scraping. So there was something there, and he's scraping it off. And I got better. I could breathe better. I had been to Hank Williams in California, had ballooned my sinuses. That helped a lot. But still, I had headaches on the right side, had tension on the right side. I had pain on the right, in my back on the right side, spider veins on the right side. All of these things on the right side, we got that cavitation removed, a little better. Glucose still high. And so last year in January, so it's January 2019, I started experiencing more and more pain from my waist to my thighs. And it was getting worse and worse and worse. And I was hosting with 50 Ways to Women's Wellness Summit. And I was privileged to interview Dr. Katie Sousa. You know Katie.
I love Katie.
She wants us to call her Kate, I think.
Oh, so, good. I call her Katie too.
Yes, she said professionally call her Kate. So Dr. Kate, and she talked about breast explant. And it was like a light went on. That, you know what? I had a mesh implant bladder sling. And so let's go back to when that happened and why. It was 2005 that I got that. And, typically as the typical woman, you have children and you tend to get urinary stress incontinence. So that's considered normal because it's common. It's not normal, but we think it is because it's common. So after my first child, it got better. After my second child, it got better. After my third child, it really didn't get better. And it was getting bad, like walking through the parking lot, uncomfortable. So my gynecologist, because I was not a practitioner, I didn't understand true health back then. He said, no problem. We can put this little mesh implant, and it'll hold up your bladder. And you know what? While we're in there, we'll just ablate your uterus because no reason for you to have periods anymore. Let's just do a uterine ablation. We don't even want to go into that. So we did the mesh implant, and there was no improvement, 0 improvement. I went back to the doctor for my 6-month checkup, for 6-week checkup, and he said, you know what, your bladder, your uterus is sitting on your bladder. Would you like me to take out your uterus? Really? You already did surgery?
My heart's sitting on my lung.
Crazy. And I said, no more cutting. No, thank you. And then when I started working with you, I started testing my hormones. And my anti-diuretic hormone was 0. I had no anti-diuretic hormone, so my body couldn't hold on to water.
Right.
So as one of your clients, I was talking to Heather on the phone on one of our appointments. You remember Heather Hustling?
Yeah.
And Heather said for me to take GB, and I did. And because that's the part of the brain that produces
ADH.
Yeah. So I had to stay on a really high dose. I was taking 2 of those twice a day for years, and I would periodically try to take less, and the problem would come back, and I would increase my dose, and it would keep it under control. So visiting with Dr. Kate, she said, I said, you know what, I've got this mesh implant, and you had been studying autoimmune. You'd been teaching us.
Yeah.
Based on newest science, if there's something foreign in your body's going to attack that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even do any of the autoimmune tests because there's too many false negatives.
Mm-hmm. True.
Typically you have it for decades before you get a positive test. Mm-hmm. So I didn't go into that. So Dr. Kate said, find a Facebook group of people who have mesh implants. And I did. And so I found specialists, 2 really important things. First of all, when you have any kind of mesh implant, you need to get it removed, but they have to remove the whole thing.
By the way, it's like the breast. You can't just remove the silicone implant. You have to remove the whole capsule because everything ends up in that capsule. But anyways, very similar.
So remove the whole mesh, number 1. Number 2, you have to have a surgeon who's really good at it, who you can trust not to put something else in there. Because some people have gone into surgery to get a mesh removed and come out of surgery with a different mesh implant. The mesh that I had been taken off the market. It was made of polypropylene. I worked so hard to get rid of all the plastic in my house, in my kitchen, and yet there was poison in my body. In my body. Class action lawsuits about this. So the thing that makes it really insidious, that makes it really hard, is that I had no symptoms where the mesh was. The first symptom I had, so I got the implant in 2005. In 2007, I clearly remember I started getting pain. I don't know if I can step back far enough, just right here in my hip bone.
I see it.
Isn't that weird? I started getting pain there, and it would hurt for a couple of months, and then it would go away, and then it would come and go for years. So then last year, I started getting more pain, just lower back. And remember, I'm getting chiropractic adjustments routinely. I'm doing cellular healing diet. I'm reducing inflammation. I'm doing everything. I get chiropractic. I get acupuncture. I do meditation. That's why you and I are banging our head against the wall, because I'm doing all those things.
Yeah.
And then both hips are hurting. In fact, in the meantime, I got the Aura ring. So I'm testing my sleep. Restless sleep, no matter what I did.
Yeah.
I threw the stupid ring away. That was just frustrating.
And by the way, a sign of a toxic source upstream. Sleep isn't right. Deep sleep's not right. Even if you sleep through the night, you feel like you don't. If you have an Aura ring, you can actually measure that you don't.
Right.
So that was what was happening.
It was a great tool. It did tell me, it gave me a measurement of a symptom. And constantly, working into ketosis, but still high glucose, even on a 5-day fast. My glucose would be in the 90s.
Crazy. And that's a big sign again that something toxic is going on. What is it? What is it?
We knew there was something wrong. So then the pain was in both hips and it was reaching down into my thighs. So I found 3 doctors, one in Cincinnati. So this was winter and I'm ready to get it out like now. I did not want to go to, I'm sorry, it was Cleveland. Didn't want to go to Cleveland in the winter or St. Louis in the winter. And my son lives in Los Angeles. So I called a doctor, Dr. Nitti at UCLA. And he, number one, said, Tammy, we have to get rid of all of that mesh. So I knew he was the right one. Plus, lots of people had been to him and he had done it correctly.
Yeah.
Dr. Hank was close by, so I could go to him after my surgery and get some treatments to help me recover quickly. My son was there. I could stay a week.
One of which was the TRT, which we spoke about in some past episodes.
Yes.
We'll talk about that.
We have to talk about
that. That inspired you to get one, and now you're helping other doctors.
That was huge. That was huge. So, so I went into the hospital. And we also need to talk about kind of how I prepared for the surgery. Why don't I talk about that now?
Yeah, great, because that is because so you found your guy, and then just like a cavitation surgery, we don't just go get these things done. We have a preparation that we do before detox, before surgeries. Talk about it.
So I was very, very focused on strengthening my immune system. Doing everything I could to reduce inflammation in my gut. Even though my glucose was high, I was still doing fasting and feasting. I was doing more fasting. Partial fast, water fast, broth fast, every month, a 5-day fast, plus my weekly fasting. Lots of variety of cultured fermented foods, probiotics, prebiotics, focusing on that. I did a lot more exercising because I knew I wouldn't be able to exercise for a while after my surgery. So that was my focus, strengthening my gut, because that's really the foundation of the whole body. So then going into the surgery, so the mesh, let me kind of define mesh. So it's like this mesh. The mesh, it was transobturator. So if you reach down to your groin and you have those little tendons, a tendon on each side of the groin, that's where it was supposed to be connected, running under my bladder, lifting up the bladder and the urethra. There was no pain there anywhere. However, when I went to the doctor in November, and I'm going to get a little graphic here, but just for a second, he did a physical exam and he said, I can feel the mesh right here in your vagina. And I thought, oh my goodness, no wonder I've been having so much trouble for years. I thought, oh, I'm just getting older. Maybe I don't have enough lubrication. Let's find natural sources of lubrication. Maybe I have, I don't know, maybe I need some estrogen. And I did some estrogen creams. None of it helped. I was having so much pain with intercourse for years, and nothing that I did helped. So he could feel the mesh right there in my vagina. So that was a huge relief because at least I knew what the problem was.
Right.
So, so we went for the surgery, and it was a 2-hour surgery. So if anyone's thinking about doing this, here's a huge thing that I can share with you. So think about where they're cutting. There was an incision in my vagina that's very long, a couple of inches. There's an incision right beside my labia. It's a 3 inches long, right parallel to my labia. So think about where my leg was, opened up like that for 2 hours. Oh my goodness, I was so sore from just the muscles and the tendons. So if anyone needs that surgery, that's what I recommend. I didn't do. Mm-hmm. For a month or 2 before, just lay on the floor, with the butterfly, the yoga butterfly with your legs out. Prepare your tendons and muscles.
Yeah.
So we had this really long surgery. And I did get antibiotics twice in my IV, and I knew that was going to happen. I did take the pain medication for a couple of days, just as little as possible. After I got out of the hospital, so I was in the hospital 24 hours. And after I got out, I was just sometimes Advil or Tylenol. I never had to take both. So all of the things that you and I had been doing together for 12 years prepared my body to come through that surgery and recover quickly, because in those Facebook groups that I was in, there are horror stories of what mesh does.
Yeah.
Some people, they're walking with a walker. They're in bed in extreme pain all day long. They get the mesh out and they're still so sick.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
where the post, do you have to detox after these things, which you do, but I hope people hear that message, that a lot of people in that group, they didn't prepare and then they didn't detox afterwards. Just like breast explants, there's a preparation and then there's a detox on the other side, because those toxins do go through every cell in the body. If you note Tammy's shirt, it's fix the cell to get well.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to detox the cell to get well.
That's
anyway,
right.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got out of the hospital, lots of cultured fermented foods, lots of probiotic and prebiotic supplements, and I did a really intense 20-day liver support protocol because my liver had been taxed with all those drugs. And then I did another support protocol to rebuild the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, the joints that were stressed. I did a lot of visualization. So all of the meditations that we've learned from Joe Dispenza and others, from Caroline Leaf, that was really good preparation for me to change my mind so that my subconscious mind knew that I didn't have to respond anymore with pain, that my body can heal.
Those neurological patterns are in there, so you had to break them, right?
Yes, had to break all of that. So so let's go back to the TRT.
Mm-hmm.
So
part of your recovery. TRT stands for tissue regenerative therapy, where it stimulates your own stem cells to start healing. We used it on Daniel, my son, who broke his back. They said wouldn't walk for 12 to 15 weeks, and they wanted to do the surgery. We didn't. Anyways, this was part of his miraculous recovery and healing as well. So TRT, there you are.
Yeah, that thing, we call it the stem cell machine, and that changed my life because I got my machine in November and my surgery was the end of January. And so I started on my hip and my thigh. And so my pain was so great for more than a year that I couldn't lift my leg to put on my pants. Wow. I had to lean down to put on my pants. Even when I leaned over, my back hurt. Third session on the TRT, I could do this with no pain. And I have another client who is a professional soccer player. And it took more, he's had a lot more dysfunction than I have, and it took more sessions. But I remember the day he said, look, I can lift my leg. So exciting. So that machine absolutely helped me to function before the surgery.
Yeah, so you got one, and now you perform it on people. Matter of fact, I have so many people who ask me, where can I go for to get TRT therapy? Okay, where are you? How do they find you? Because you can help them.
Yep, absolutely. We're in Grapevine, Texas, and so you can find us. Just Google Tammy Stewart CHC. We're on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and we have our website is Health for a Purpose. So you can send us a message and come to us in Grapevine. I have a client driving 5.5 hours one way from Arkansas.
Well, I mean, it's even worth flying in because it's oftentimes it only takes 5-6 treatments. Right?
Yeah, easy.
You know what I'm saying? So you can stay for a spell and just get some treatment done and fly home. Even come
10
back
minutes.
a few months later.
Yeah, 10 minutes from DFW Airport.
Yeah.
Super easy. So that changed my life. Then after the surgery, we did use the machine for wound care. Mm-hmm. And so I just, just right there where I had the incision, my recovery was really easy. As soon as I got that mesh out, the pain all over my body was gone.
Yeah.
Always. Immediately. Shocking.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times healing, and I want to be real with people, healing is a lot of times it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that can be discouraging.
Yeah.
If you don't know to expect it. So some of the pain has ebbed and flowed. But I'm anchored 100% in all the things that you've taught us. God designed the body to heal when we remove the interference.
Yeah.
And do I have autoimmune? Probably. Would a test show it? I don't know. But that takes time to recover.
And it will reverse. It will
it
now.
Will.
Yeah, because
100%.
your body's, you're getting, you said on our doctor call this week, it's because someone asked Tammy, how you doing, poster? It's like you're getting better and better every week, so.
Better and better. And for me, the recovery was really pretty simple. I found that if I had days that I worked too much, I would get tired. I was able to work a little bit. There was, after 5 weeks, I thought, pridefully, oh, I'm so healthy and strong, I can start exercising. That was a mistake. And I got worse. And at some point, see, my husband was helping me in the office. And then I thought, oh, I can do it. But I was sitting on a chair with wheels and I was rolling back and forth. So imagine yourself doing that and imagine where you're sitting and which muscles you're using. That was a mistake. That was a bad day. So I got worse that week and I sat back, take it easy, give your body time to recover. And it has. So the incisions have healed and it's been 7 weeks now. I'll start exercising again next week. I'm going to give it a little time. And then all of the things that I've been doing are going to start working. When I do a 5-day fast, and I'll keep doing that, I'll do 5-day fasts once a month until my glucose comes down.
Yeah, now it's going to be a totally different experience. I mean, everything's going to need to be different. I can tell you when we find that last bit of cause, and keep in mind, folks, that reminder, right? She went through mold, she went through Lyme, she went through hidden infections, cavitations, and she'll tell you every time she dealt with one of those, she did get better. Let's be clear. There was a level, but it wasn't there yet. So it was like, wasn't there. And this was the last thing. Matter of fact, show your heavy metal test. I know you have.
Oh, got it. Yes.
Yeah, but the aluminum was off the chart. Now your lead is still coming down. I mean, that's how long lead takes. Will you show?
Right. Takes so long. And so when I said I do everything to the nth degree, so we started 2008. And so to do true cellular detox safely, you do cycles, 4 to 7 days on, 7-10 days off. And I have done that constantly. Now, there may have been months when I only did one cycle, if I was on vacation or something. That's a lot. So to start with, when I first started, that was my aluminum.
Yeah, look at that. I rarely you see aluminum because aluminum is in the brain. It's like mercury. You don't really see it in the tissue, but you saw your aluminum and mercury on that test.
Yes,
really
and my grandmother had Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
That's motivational. And I tell my kids, you know what? All these crazy things that I do, and you look at me and you think I'm crazy, that's why. Because I'm going to be here for my grandkids.
Right. That's
and
right.
So then I've done a couple of other tests. In fact, one of my kids, Steven's aluminum was almost that high.
Wonder where he got it from.
Imagine that. He was my oldest. And then Jason's lead was off the chart. He was my second. My husband's mercury was way higher than his lead, which is really scary.
Yeah.
So I, at times, got discouraged because I would do a heavy metals test and it would still be high. And I would think, I'm doing all these things. So my encouragement, if I could say 2 or 3 things. Number one, your faith is that God designed the body to heal. No matter what. You remove the interference, give the body what it needs, the body will heal. You need to remove the source as quickly as possible. If I could go back in time, you and I both, what would we have done differently?
God.
But, God brings good out of everything.
It's true. It's
everything.
True.
So this was my most recent, notice my aluminum, very low.
It's amazing, yeah.
Lots of metals completely gone.
Yeah.
My lead started out 13, now it's still 11. Of course, this is not a perfect test either. It's only measuring what will come out.
Yeah. I mean, lead takes years to get it out of the bone, right? So
that's, let me look at my notes real quick and see if there was something. Oh, restless leg. I was miserable with restless leg, and that is so much better. So be persistent.
Yeah.
Is my challenge.
Yeah.
To everyone.
And the message here, if you still don't feel well, there could be something still upstream.
Right.
And Tammy, your whole story has proven that again and again and again.
Over
and
and over.
time, with each discovery, you got better and better and better and better,
Yes.
and still healing.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we're in it for the long haul.
Pain to Purpose. You know, your last show, which we're going to put the link here, you inspired a lot of people to become practitioners because of their story from pain to purpose. You know, and starting off just as a mom that wants to get her family well, you become a practitioner, and now you're changing lives by the thousands. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's my stepdad was my science teacher in school, and the school I went to had 100 kids, 1st through 12th grades. So when I say he was my science teacher, I mean 7th through 12th grade. He was our only science teacher, and I know he's in heaven laughing, because when you and I first started, I had to go study. What is a cell? What do cells do? 2 layers of fat on the outside of the cell. Really? So science was not my thing. But it just proves that when God calls us, he equips us.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Perfectly for our journey. Each of us has a different journey.
I don't know a more persistent person than you. Getting your life back, your health back, your new business, you name it. This woman is absolutely a 1%er. I talk about 3%ers. Girl, you are a 1%er. And I'll tell you, I say you evaluate a coach or a practitioner based on the level of adversity, and their own story and persistence. Well, that makes you one of the best. So, Tammy, remind them where they are and your website and TRT therapy and all of what you've been through. She can coach you.
And you know what's funny, when we work mostly from home, you and I, because when I'm coaching someone one-on-one, it's mostly on the phone. Yeah. And so yet we do have a live office here in Grapevine, Texas. And our website is Health for a Purpose. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Tammy Stewart, CHC. And just the extreme things, when I stand in my home office and look around, I have a Rife machine. I have a very upscale professional vibrating platform. I have 2 very expensive saunas. I have an ozone machine. I have all these things.
She's my sister. She's my sister from another mother, folks. You see it. She's describing my house, I think.
Yeah. And my TRT machine, all these things, all of my air purifiers, and wow.
Oh, gosh. I would die for a TRT machine. I don't have one of those. I don't have you have an outlet to help people with it, so you can pay for it, which is awesome. But
it is so exciting, because I had a client who could not stand up, but when she would sit down, she would have to hold on to the chairs and the table to stand up. After her first session, she was like a Jack in the Box. Look, I can stand up without holding on to anything. Look at me. She was so excited. Love the TRT.
Folks, don't you just feel her energy, this woman? Oh my God. I am so blessed to know you, be a part of it.
Oh my goodness, I'm blessed with you. You're saving our lives. All of us, my whole family. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just knowing that helping you, and now look how many people through you, right? Gosh, I wish I could duplicate that 1,000 times over. We'd change the world faster, that's for sure. We need more Tammy Stewarts, folks. Pain to Purpose, that should encourage you. You're we're gonna put an R1. We need a shirt that says R1 and something about persistence on the back. I love you, Tammy Stewart. Thanks for being here.
I love you too so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this week. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. This episode was brought to you by Cyto Detox. Please check it out at buycytonow.com. We'll be back next week and every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern.
We truly appreciate your support. You can always find us at cellularhealing.tv, and please remember to spread the love by liking, subscribing, giving an iTunes review, and sharing the show with anyone you think may benefit from the information heard here. And as always, thanks for listening.